The moment Amelia Morgan discovered the custom balloon arch had collapsed just 30 minutes before Natalie's baby shower was scheduled to begin. She knew the universe was testing her event planning skills. Armed with nothing but a roll of tape, a stapler, and sheer determination, she frantically reconstructed the pink and gold centerpiece while guests were already parking outside. "Need a hand?" a deep voice asked from behind her. Amelia spun around, still gripping several pink balloons, and found herself face to face with what could only be described as an advertisement for expensive suits. The man stood tall with perfect posture, dark hair neatly styled, and warm brown eyes that held an amused sparkle. "Only if you're good with balloon architecture," she quipped, trying to sound calm despite being on the verge of a meltdown. "I built model bridges as a kid. Can't be that different," he replied, removing his suit jacket and rolling up the sleeves of his crisp white shirt. For the next 15 minutes, they worked side by side, securing balloons and reinforcing the arch. Just as the first guest knocked on the door, they stepped back to admire their handiwork. "Not bad for a rush job," Amelia said, wiping a bead of sweat from her forehead. "I'm Amelia, by the way. Friend of the mom-to-be and today's designated party planner." "Ethan," he replied simply, offering a firm handshake. "Natalie's brother." Amelia's eyes widened. "Oh, you're the elusive brother she's mentioned. I didn't recognize you from the photos." "Probably because most of those are from my awkward teenage years," he said with a chuckle. "I'll be helping out today, so point me in any direction you need." Before she could respond, the door burst open as Natalie waddled in, 7 months pregnant and glowing. "Amelia, it looks incredible." She embraced her friend before turning to her brother. "Ethan, you're early. I thought your flight wasn't getting in until this afternoon." "Changed my plans," he replied, giving his sister a gentle hug. "Couldn't miss setting up for my future niece or nephew's big celebration." As guests began arriving, Amelia found herself constantly glancing in Ethan's direction. He moved with an easy confidence, helping elderly relatives to their seats and engaging effortlessly in conversation. For someone wearing what was clearly a high-end suit to a suburban baby shower, he seemed remarkably comfortable. The event progressed smoothly until it was time for the games. Amelia had prepared several activities, including one where guests had to guess how many candies were in a baby bottle. "All right, everyone," she announced, "take your guesses on the candy count. Closest without going over wins this adorable diaper bag filled with goodies." As she collected the guess cards, Ethan approached her with a cup of punch. "Thought you might need this. You've been running around non-stop." "Thank you," she said gratefully, taking a sip. "Being event coordinator is thirsty work." "So you do this professionally?" he asked, leaning against the wall. "No, just for friends and family. I'm actually a pediatric nurse," his eyebrows raised with interest. "That's impressive." "Pediatrics requires a special kind of patience," says the man who just helped reconstruct a balloon arch without complaint, she teased. "What do you do, by the way? Natalie's always vague when she mentions you." A slight smile played on his lips. "Investments, mostly." "Nothing as meaningful as your work. Don't sell yourself short. The world needs all kinds," Amelia replied. Their conversation was interrupted when it was time to announce the winners of the games. As Amelia handed out prizes, she couldn't help but notice how Ethan seemed to be studying the party layout with analytical eyes. When the last guest had departed, and Natalie was resting on the couch, Amelia began cleaning up. Ethan joined her, gathering plates and cups with surprising efficiency. "You don't have to help," she protested. "You're family, not staff." "I've never been one to stand around while others work," he said, tying up a garbage bag. "Besides, you did all this for my sister. It's the least I can do." As they worked side by side, Amelia found herself enjoying his company more than she expected. There was something refreshing about his straightforward manner and subtle humor. "So, are you in town for long?" she asked, trying to sound casual. "Actually, I'm relocating back to the area," he replied. I've been away for a few years, but with the baby coming, I wanted to be closer to family. That's nice, Amelia said, feeling an unexpected flutter of excitement at the thought of him staying. Natalie will be thrilled to have you around. As they finished cleaning, Ethan helped Amelia load her car with her event supplies. When everything was packed, an awkward moment hung between them. "Thank you again for your help today," she said, fumbling with her keys. "The pleasure was mine," he replied. Actually, I was wondering if his phone rang suddenly, interrupting whatever he was about to say. He checked the screen and frowned. "I'm sorry, I have to take this." "Of course," Amelia said, hiding her disappointment. "It was nice meeting you, Ethan." As she drove away, she couldn't help feeling she'd just met someone special, even if their paths might not cross again. The following Monday, Amelia was checking vitals on a fussy toddler when her colleague poked her head into the exam room. "There's a delivery for you at the front desk," she whispered, giving Amelia a curious look. After finishing with her patient, Amelia made her way to reception, where an elegant arrangement of white roses and baby's breath awaited. She opened the small card tucked among the blooms. "Thank you for making my sister's day so special. Would you consider helping me with another event? Dinner, perhaps? Ethan F." Beneath his name was a phone number. Amelia felt a rush of warmth as she tucked the card into her pocket. Later that evening, after debating with herself for hours, she finally gathered the courage to call him. "This is Ethan," he answered on the second ring, his voice somehow even more appealing over the phone. "Hi, it's Amelia, the baby shower balloon architect," she said, immediately cringing at her awkward introduction. His laugh was warm and genuine. "I was hoping you'd call. Thank you for the flowers, they're beautiful. I'm glad you liked them. About that dinner invitation." "Yes," she replied, perhaps too quickly. "I'd love to." They arranged to meet that Friday at a restaurant downtown. Amelia spent the rest of the week alternating between excitement and nervousness. By the time Friday arrived, she had changed outfits 4 times before settling on a simple navy blue dress. The restaurant turned out to be one of the most exclusive in the city, the kind that didn't display prices on the menu and required reservations months in advance. Yet somehow, Ethan had secured them a prime table. "This place is impossible to get into," she remarked as they were seated. "I've heard the wait list is longer than the pregnancy I just helped celebrate." Ethan's smile was modest. "I know the owner. We went to college together." Throughout dinner, Amelia found herself increasingly drawn to him. He listened attentively as she shared stories from her nursing career, asked thoughtful questions, and spoke passionately about his own interests without dominating the conversation. "So, you mentioned you work in investments," she said between bites of her perfectly prepared salmon. "What does that entail exactly?" "I started a fund management company about 8 years ago," he explained. "We help clients grow their assets through various investment strategies." "That sounds complex," she said, trying to imagine what such a job involved. "It can be. But at its core, it's about understanding value and potential," he replied. "Not unlike your work in a way, you see the potential in children and help them grow healthy and strong." Amelia appreciated his attempt to connect their very different worlds. "I've never thought of it that way, but I like the comparison." As the evening progressed, their conversation flowed effortlessly from work to family, favorite books, and travel experiences. Ethan mentioned having visited several countries for business, while Amelia shared her dream of one day volunteering her nursing skills abroad. When the check came, he discreetly handled it before she could even offer to split the bill. "This was my invitation," he said firmly. "Next time can be your treat if you insist." "Next time?" she asked, feeling a flutter of anticipation. "I was hoping there would be a next time," he replied, his confidence momentarily giving way to vulnerability. Outside the restaurant, as they waited for the valet to bring their cars, Ethan turned to her. "I enjoyed tonight, Amelia, more than I've enjoyed an evening in a very long time." "Me too," she admitted. When her car arrived first, he walked her to it and opened the door. Before she got in, he leaned down and placed a gentle kiss on her cheek. "I'll call you tomorrow," he promised. True to his word, he called the next day and asked if she'd join him for a walk in the botanical gardens on Sunday. One date led to another, and soon they were seeing each other several times a week. Ethan was consistently thoughtful, from remembering her coffee order to bringing her homemade soup when she caught a cold from one of her patients. What struck Amelia most was how grounded he seemed despite his evident success. He drove a nice car and wore expensive clothes, but he never flaunted his wealth or made her feel inadequate for her more modest lifestyle. 3 weeks into their relationship, Amelia received a call from a panicked Natalie. "My doctor wants me on bed rest for the next 2 weeks," she explained, her voice tight with worry. "But I had this huge baby shower planned for my friend Kylie this weekend. Is there any way you could take it over? I have all the supplies and decorations ready." "Of course," Amelia assured her. "You focus on resting, I'll handle everything." When she mentioned the situation to Ethan that evening as they cooked dinner together in her small apartment, he immediately offered to help. "I'm becoming quite the baby shower expert," he joked, stirring the pasta sauce. "Maybe I should add it to my resume." Amelia laughed, but something about his comment triggered a question. "Speaking of your resume, you're always so vague about your work. Is it some kind of secret?" He hesitated, setting down the wooden spoon. "Not a secret exactly, I've found that people sometimes treat me differently when they know the full extent of my business." "What do you mean?" Ethan sighed. "My company has been more successful than I initially let on, much more successful actually." "Okay," Amelia said slowly. "Are we talking Millionaire successful or something?" His silence was answer enough. "Oh," she said quietly. "I see." "Does that change things?" he asked, his voice carefully neutral but his eyes revealing his concern. Amelia thought for a moment. "It explains the impossible restaurant reservation and why you never seem worried about bills. But no, it doesn't change how I feel about you." Relief washed over his face. "I wanted you to know me, not my bank account." She stepped closer and placed a hand on his chest. "I do know you. You're the guy who fixed a balloon arch in a designer suit and brought me chicken soup when I was sick." He pulled her into an embrace, and they stood there in her small kitchen, the pasta momentarily forgotten. The day of Kylie's baby shower arrived, and Amelia was once again in full event planning mode. Ethan had insisted on helping, arriving early with coffee and pastries for their setup crew, which consisted of just the two of them. As they transformed Natalie's backyard with decorations in shades of green and yellow, the parents-to-be had decided not to learn the baby's gender. Amelia noticed Ethan seemed distracted, frequently checking his phone. "Everything okay?" she asked as they arranged centerpieces. "Yes, just confirming some details for next weekend," he replied, tucking his phone away. "What's next weekend?" "It's a surprise," he said with a mysterious smile, "but I need you to keep Saturday free." Intrigued, Amelia agreed, focusing back on the task at hand. The shower was a success, with Kylie tearing up at the beautiful setup and the thoughtful gifts from friends and family. Throughout the event, Amelia couldn't help but notice how natural Ethan was with everyone, from Kylie's grandmother to her young nephew. He helped serve food, engaged in conversation with guests, and even volunteered to be the official photographer. As they cleaned up afterward, Ethan received a call that he stepped away to take. When he returned, there was an intensity in his expression that hadn't been there before. "Is everything all right?" Amelia asked, concerned. "More than all right," he replied. "Just finalizing some plans that have been in the works for a while." The following Saturday, Ethan picked her up early, instructing her to dress comfortably. They drove for about an hour, eventually pulling up to a large estate with sprawling grounds and a stunning view of the mountains. "What is this place?" Amelia asked, taking in the magnificent property. "It's a venue I've been considering for an event," Ethan explained, leading her toward the main building. Inside, they were greeted by a woman in professional attire who introduced herself as the property manager. She led them on a tour of the estate, showing them various spaces including a grand ballroom, multiple terraces, and gardens that seemed to go on forever. "This would be perfect for a corporate retreat," Amelia commented as they walked through a sunlit atrium. Ethan exchanged a look with the manager before turning to Amelia. "Actually, I was thinking of something more personal." Before she could ask what he meant, they stepped into a room that overlooked the most beautiful garden Amelia had ever seen. In the center was a table set for lunch with champagne chilling in an ice bucket. "I thought we could discuss my plans over lunch," Ethan said, pulling out a chair for her. As they enjoyed their meal, Ethan began to explain. "For the past few months, I've been planning a special event. Something to celebrate my sister and her baby." "Another baby shower?" Amelia asked, confused. "Not exactly. More like a welcome celebration for when the baby arrives. I wanted it to be a surprise for Natalie, something extraordinary to mark this new chapter in her life." "That's so thoughtful," Amelia said, touched by his devotion to his sister. "The thing is," he continued, "the more I worked on it, the more I realized I was missing something crucial. Someone with the perfect blend of creativity, organizational skills, and genuine care." "You want me to help plan it?" she guessed. "Initially, yes," he admitted. "But then I met you at Natalie's shower and everything changed. I wasn't just looking for an event planner anymore. I was falling for the woman behind the perfect party." Amelia's heart raced as she began to understand. "So all this time I've been planning two things, a celebration for my sister and a way to tell you how much you've come to mean to me." He reached across the table to take her hand. "These past weeks have been the happiest of my life. You see me for who I am, not what I have." "Ethan," she began, but he gently squeezed her hand. "Let me finish. I know it hasn't been long, but I've never been more certain of anything. I'm not proposing not yet anyway, but I wanted you to know that what I feel for you is real and lasting." Tears pricked at Amelia's eyes. "I feel the same way." Their moment was interrupted by the property manager discreetly clearing her throat. "Mr. Foster, whenever you're ready, we can discuss the contract details." Amelia's eyebrows shot up. "Contract?" Ethan looked slightly sheepish. "I may have already put a deposit down on this place for Natalie's celebration, and for future events we might want to host." "Future events?" she echoed. "Well, I figured if we're going to continue seeing each other, we might need a venue for, say, an engagement party someday, or a wedding. Or perhaps a baby shower of our own." Amelia's breath caught. "You've thought that far ahead?" "Is that too presumptuous?" he asked, suddenly uncertain. In response, she leaned across the table and kissed him, not caring that the property manager was still hovering nearby. "Not presumptuous," she whispered against his lips. "Perfect." Over the following weeks, they worked together planning what would become known as the most extravagant welcome baby celebration the city had ever seen. Ethan spared no expense, flying in Natalie's favorite chef from Italy to cater and hiring a string quartet for ambience. Throughout the planning process, Amelia was continually surprised by Ethan's attention to detail and the depth of his generosity. He insisted on establishing a college fund for his future niece or nephew and arranged for a year's worth of housekeeping services for Natalie and her husband. "You know, most brothers just buy a onesie and call it a day," Amelia teased him one evening as they finalized the guest list. "Most brothers didn't miss their sister's wedding because they were busy building a company overseas," he replied, a hint of old guilt in his voice. "I have a lot to make up for." "Natalie doesn't see it that way," Amelia assured him. "She's just happy you're here now." "Thanks to you, I'm not just here, I'm present," he said, pulling her close. "You've helped me reconnect with what matters." The night before Natalie's due date, they put the finishing touches on the celebration plans. Everything was arranged to be activated as soon as they received word that the baby had arrived. When the call came at 3:47 a.m. that Natalie was in labor, Ethan and Amelia rushed to the hospital. They sat in the waiting room for hours, Ethan pacing nervously while Amelia tried to calm him with coffee and reassurances. "She's in good hands," Amelia told him. "The doctors here are excellent." Finally, Natalie's husband emerged, exhausted but beaming. "It's a girl, 7 pounds, 2 ounces. Both mother and daughter are doing great." Ethan embraced his brother-in-law, emotion evident in his usually composed demeanor. When they were allowed to visit briefly, Amelia hung back to give the family their moment, but Natalie insisted she come in. "After all," Natalie said, cradling her newborn daughter, "you're practically family now." The words warmed Amelia's heart as she gazed at the tiny baby with Natalie's nose and her father's chin. "Have you decided on a name?" Ethan asked, gently touching his niece's tiny hand. "Emma Rose," Natalie replied, exchanging a meaningful look with her husband. "After your mother, Ethan." Ethan's eyes glistened. "She would have been so proud." As they left the hospital, Ethan made the calls that set their celebration plan in motion. 3 days later, when Natalie was released from the hospital, she was stunned to arrive home to find her house transformed and filled with loved ones eager to welcome little Emma. The celebration was everything they had hoped for: elegant, yet warm, extravagant, yet intimate. Natalie was moved to tears by her brother's gesture, especially when Ethan presented her with a family heirloom necklace that had belonged to their grandmother. "For Emma, when she's older," he said, "to remind her of where she comes from." As the party wound down, Amelia found herself standing on the patio watching the sunset. Ethan joined her, slipping an arm around her waist. "Thank you for helping make this happen," he said softly. "It means more than I can express." "It was my pleasure," she replied. "Though I'm not sure how I'll top this for our next event planning collaboration." "Actually, I was thinking our next project might be a bit more personal," he said, turning to face her. "What did you have in mind?" she asked, curious. Ethan reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Amelia's heart skipped a beat. "I know we agreed to take things slow," he began, "but these past months have shown me that when you find the right person, time becomes irrelevant." He opened the box to reveal a stunning diamond ring, simple yet elegant. "Amelia Morgan, will you marry me? Not just as my partner in event planning, but as my partner in life." Tears sprang to her eyes as joy overwhelmed her. "Yes," she whispered. "Absolutely yes." As he slipped the ring onto her finger, cheers erupted from the doorway. They turned to find Natalie, baby Emma in her arms, and several guests watching with delighted expressions. "I knew it," Natalie exclaimed. "When you asked for Grandma's ring last week, I had a feeling this was coming." "You planned this all along, didn't you?" Amelia asked Ethan. "Using your sister's celebration as cover for your proposal?" "Guilty," he admitted with a grin. "Though in my defense, I did have Natalie's blessing." "More than my blessing," Natalie corrected, approaching to hug them both. "My enthusiastic encouragement. Welcome to the family, Amelia." 1 year later, Amelia and Ethan exchanged vows in the same venue where he had first hinted at their future together. The ceremony was intimate, with little Emma, now a toddling 1-year-old, serving as the world's most adorable flower girl. During the reception, Natalie gave a toast that had everyone laughing and wiping away tears. "When I asked my friend Amelia to plan my baby shower, I had no idea I was setting up a meet-cute for her and my millionaire brother," she said, raising her glass. "But watching them together this past year, I've realized something important. Ethan's success built his company, but Amelia built his happiness." As they swayed together during their first dance as husband and wife, Ethan whispered in Amelia's ear, "Remember when we fixed that balloon arch?" "How could I forget? It was the beginning of our story," she replied. "I knew then," he confessed. "Something about the way you handled crisis with such grace and determination. I thought to myself, this is a woman I want in my life." "And here I am," she said, leaning her head against his chest. "Here you are," he agreed, "planning not just parties but our future." 6 months after their wedding, Amelia and Ethan launched a foundation focused on improving pediatric care in underserved communities. combining her medical expertise with his business acumen. And when, a year later, they welcomed their own daughter, they celebrated with a simple family gathering, no elaborate planning required. As Ethan liked to remind her, sometimes the most meaningful celebrations were the ones you couldn't plan for. The quiet moments holding their daughter, the family dinners with Natalie and Emma, the ordinary days that became extraordinary simply because they were together. For Amelia, who had once prided herself on perfectly executed events, the beautiful messiness of their life together proved to be her masterpiece. And for Ethan, who had built his fortune understanding value, she remained his greatest investment, the woman who had planned a baby shower and unwittingly changed his life forever.